Hello and welcome to your October Q&A with the Ninth Dimension Arcturian Council. Today they offer insight on the relationship between the soul and the higher self and the tension of opposites and the significance of palindromes. So welcome back to my channel. This is the Unravel Collective. My name is Yvonne and I love to unravel the human condition to reveal the multidimensional self. I offer channeled guidance, and every month my Instagram family submit their questions to me. And before we get started, I want to share something really exciting with you. I am based in Nashville, Tennessee, but my partner and I, Ramona Reed, are in the process of building a nonprofit meditation and healing sanctuary in Abiquiu, New Mexico. It's named the Frequency Center. We'll be spending 3 weeks there in mid-November to get things rolling on the land, and we have already started hosting meditation, Reiki, and sound bath events here in Nashville to benefit the Frequency Center, and I can't wait to have the sanctuary up and running. It's going to be a beautiful place of peace for community and connection where all will be welcome. So I'm going to put a link below so that you can learn more and see opportunities on how you can be involved by either volunteering your time or skills or gifting a donation. And if you're in Nashville, please join us for these magical events. The feedback that we're getting back on the experience of these special meditations is phenomenal, and it's because of the people who are there gathered in community. Okay, so now let's get started with our Q&A. Our first question is by @Mary Mooney, and her question is, what is the relationship between the soul and the higher self? And this is what they had to share with us. This is a question that is beautiful because there's such a multi-layered explanation when it comes to the distinction of the soul and the higher self. One of the first things we'd like to explain is that the soul is an everlasting frequency of existence. The soul is in many ways indestructible, so to speak. This is an energy and a frequency that exists, that transforms itself in many ways and in many dimensions, and has the capacity to live, so to speak, in many different levels of existence. And this is difficult to comprehend because the soul, it transcends space and time. It is the fractal of yourself that is inspired by the breath of God. And when we say inspired by the breath of God, we literally mean that the breath of God inspires this fractal of your existence into life, into aliveness, into existence. When we distinguish what the higher self is, well, this is a fractal of yourself that contains more knowledge of the soul existence and the relationship of the soul existence to God. Here's a clip of how they explain more about the higher self. So the higher self is a little bit more advanced, let's say, than the earthly being or the earthly vessel, which as part of this experience on earth, the earthly vessel agrees to forget or have a degree of amnesia, yes, in order to experience the earthly experience, the human experience, in order to gain wisdom through the energy of experience. For learning can only come through the alteration of one's cellular makeup in and through and during a process of experience, a process of emotions moving through the cellular makeup, altering the frequency of the cellular makeup, offering the opportunity for a transformation. They go on to say, and oftentimes the higher self is privy to lessons that you've laid out for yourself for this earthly plane, and it has been also in collaboration, so to speak, with God and with the greater mission of God's purpose and God's will. So the higher self is in partnership with God, is working and in service to God, and the higher self is not operating under the veil of amnesia, and oftentimes is available to you for assistance as the earthly being, and is a fractal of the soul, which exists within the earthly vessel, undergoing the experience of this earth school. So the soul exists in both places, in your earthly human body and as the higher self, and ultimately is a fractal of the energy of God. Let us distinguish that although we are a fractal of God and we hold a fractal of God's energy, that without the inspiration of God, we would not exist. Let's see what else they shared about this inspiration breathed into us by God. And so this inspiration is quite important in the aspect of creation, for it is the breath of God that has created you, and it is through this breath that you are inspired to create on the earth plane, as well as create the experience not only of this lifetime in this dimension, but the experience of that which you and God choose to fulfill on as it pertains to His greater purpose and mission for you. So ultimately, my dear, the soul is created to fulfill on God's purpose. We hope that this has been of benefit to you and has helped you understand more clearly the distinction between soul and higher self. Okay, well, thank you so much for that question at Mary Mooney. And let's go on to question number 2. All right, question number 2 by Karen is, I'm curious to know what my new challenges might be. This is what they had to say. The first thing we see, my dear, is the grand expansiveness of an open sky in which you are partaking in and gathering more information from. It is the simplest of ways and may be overlooked, but the environment around you is offering revelations, so to speak, in what is coming next for you. And we offer you the advice of being sure to spend as much time in this environment as possible, because it is through the frequency of this sky and this earth and this particular land that will offer you the next right step. There's a wave frequency that is occurring here on this land that is speaking to you, and it's calling you to inspire you into your next action or expansion point. They go on to focus on your specific question now, so let's see a clip of that. Now, when you ask, what might my new challenges be? We see that there is a little bit of hesitation on your part to believe that you could make a difference, to believe that you could have the insight or retain the information, that which is waiting for you to pick it up, waiting for you to acknowledge it, waiting for you to experience it, waiting for you to be open to it. So what we're seeing is a challenge of doubting yourself, so to speak, a challenge of procrastination, a challenge of hesitation on your part to step into this greater expansion that is ready and available for you to take on. And once again, you are very connected to the earth itself. You are very connected to the elements and the information they hold. So with that knowledge, we again ask you to spend more time in nature without distraction. So be sure not to carry on with listening to anything on your phone or the distraction of using your phone or any type of video device. Go ahead and offer yourself the time and space to be quiet here. And it does not mean that you need to go out and spend hours in the nature at one time. There can be
times when it is just 10 minutes, maybe just 30 minutes, but we are saying that as you begin to spend more time in nature, more will be revealed to you, because the act, let's say, of that intention will allow for communication to begin.
They go on to say, and this is going to require that you let go of your doubts and you let go of the idea that you do not have any extraordinary gifts to be able to hear the communications available to you. And there is sacred energy here on the land that you have chosen to move to. And there is indigenous energy here on the land. Indigenous energy that you are actually connected to, my dear. Lifetimes ago, you have been on this land before. You have fostered and cultivated this land. You have worshipped on this land. And you, my dear, therefore, hold information within you that is available to collaborate with this land in order to activate it and alter the frequency of the community around you. Let's see what else they had to say.
So this is no small feat, and of course it will not happen instantaneously, it will not happen overnight. However, we simply advise you to spend more time in nature so that this knowledge and wisdom and connection to the land will become clearer and clearer for you, and that you remain a vessel that is of highest intention and empty, so to speak, ready to be filled with the information provided for you without the cloud of doubt or insecurity. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you so much for that question, Karen. Let's go on to question number 3. Okay, so this question is by @UnicraneInsane, and her question is, how do you define tension of opposites? And this is what they shared. A definition of this term, tension of opposites, can pretty much define the entirety of human life. In many ways, this is what Earth School is all about. The experience of opposition. Opposition with others as well as within yourself. And this is the cycle of nature itself as well. There is always the cycle of light to dark, dark to light, yin to yang, yang to yin, interrelatedness, interconnectedness between the two. There's never just 100% light and 100% dark. They're always intermingling, creation and destruction at the same time, occurring within us and all around us at all times. So let's watch a clip of what else they shared.
So, this idea of tension of opposites falls under the same type of natural cycle of being in this dimension, in this earth time, in this time and space on this earth plane. This is something in which should allow you to understand the nature of a interconnectedness to all, so to speak. There is never 100% living within one aspect of yourself. There is always going to be a percentage of the opposite of which you desire, so to speak, to be experiencing. So let's say you want to experience peace or joy or love. In order to experience peace, joy, and love, well, you must also know the experience of the opposite, perhaps turmoil, perhaps sadness, perhaps anger, or fear, or hate, even to the extent, if we want to take it this far, to this extent. And so when you are operating in the idea of peace, you are also operating under the experience of what it's like to have war or turmoil. In order for peace to exist, you must also know the experience of war. Does this make sense to you? And so this idea of tension of opposites in relation to humans shows up almost in every moment of your life. Every choice you make, every observation, every perspective, every opinion, every vision, so to speak. Many times, if you are in the middle of a choice, you are saying, I would like to make this choice, but what are the pros and cons? Yes, so here is the tension of opposites. It shows up here. If you are in a state of perspective where you are claiming to know what is right, well, this means that you must also know the experience of what you perceive as wrong.
They go on to share, and also there is aspect of your perspective in which you will still question yourself and justify yourself in your perspective. So again, the tension of opposites exists here as well. Even if you are externally proclaiming you are 100% sure in your conviction, there's still the justification of your conviction in which the experience of your being wrong might be within you in order to land in your conviction. And so the ability to separate ourselves from the tension of opposites is, we might say, impossible to do on the earth plane, because this is the nature of being and existing in this dimension and this time, and what you're here to learn as you grow and expand yourselves from the ideas and concepts of opposition. Thank you so much for that question at Unicrane Insane. You have another question, so let's take question number 4, I think. Okay, I was right. Question number 4, also by at Unicrane Insane. What is the significance of palindromes? Here is what they shared. Some might say that the significance of palindromes is much like the significance of numbers, which, as we have discussed before, numbers hold a certain type of frequency, and this frequency that numbers hold thereby result in the experience of creation. There is a sacredness to each number in which that frequency exists. And so when we look at letters, we are this time looking at ancient symbols, ancient script, so to speak. So let's see what else they had to share about the frequency of letters.
And each line of a letter holds itself a frequency as well, just as numbers do. And symbols and writing and script are a way in which frequency impacts the reader, impacts the community, impacts the world, so to speak. And when you are finding a letter or word that ends up in a palindrome, as you call it, this is a significance perhaps of, first off, lightheartedness, perhaps lightheartedness here, simply a fun game, so to speak. So there is, in some ways, a childlike manner here in the creation of these words. And then there is also the idea of symmetry. And so oftentimes, as we were discussing just a bit earlier, as the tension of opposites topic, we can see that most of life requires there is some sort of imbalance or interrelatedness and interconnectedness and interdynamics of energy constantly moving in and out of one another. When it comes to a palindrome and the frequency of these symbols that make up the palindrome, well, here we can see that it is more of an energy of symmetry, yes, more of an idea of an equal weightedness or an equal neutrality of the word, so to speak. And you will find that oftentimes these words are in some ways soothing to you, or as we said, bring on a lightheartedness or a childlike expression in the fun of finding these words, noticing these words, seeing these words. And in that childlike expression comes the energy of a neutrality, which again is more of an equal footing or an equal weight, in which there is opportunity to perhaps experience a balance of the energy being put forth through this word. So other than this, we are not getting any other information regarding palindromes. Thank you so much for this question.
Okay, well, I hope that helped clear some things up, or at least was very interesting. Take it or leave it. Thank you so much for everyone who submitted their questions this month. And if you are interested in submitting a question for the November Q&A with the Ninth Dimension Arcturian Council, please be sure to follow me at the.unravelcollective, where I will put in a question box at the end of this month to prepare for November. Thank you so much for your time. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe. Until next time, bye.